is? What's happening? Welcome back to the channel. So we had some snow in our area, and it's cold outside. It's like 50 degrees in the shop, though. Thanks to insulation and some heat, it's actually very comfortable in here. So I got a little side job here that it's just about done, and we're gonna probably get ready to head out of here, go get something to eat. But I took a little bit of time and full with a carburetor on this little 350 Chevy. Now, mind, just a bone stock 350 Chevy. That's all it is. But I finally got the carburetor straightened out. Well, somewhat straightened out. Still got a full with it, but I mean, we're just running it on an engine stand. We got a little bit of a fuel leak on this chromium bifoamium fuel line. We'll have to address that. But at least we fire rate up. We're building oil pressure, and we it's pumping fuel right out of the antifreeze jug with no problems, and it lights right up. Uh-oh, it's gonna be a liar of me. Let's see. Running pretty easy. Now for the guys that are new to the channel, yes, it's a little warm. It'll be all right. It'll be fine. I can put my hands on it. It ain't burning up. It'll be all right. So anyway, this was a 350 Chevy. You can go back a ton of videos. I put a motor. This was a 350 Chevy that I had out of a box truck. This is just a one of those. Back in the day, you could buy a brand new 350 Chevy from GM, replacement engine. That's all this is. It was in a box truck that I had for years for storage. The truck finally got to the point where it was just rusted out, to the point the last time I moved to the other house, the truck was going to break in half. So we emptied it out, junked the truck, pulled the motor. All I did was reseal it, was going to stick it in my Chevy van, to find out the thing didn't run worth a crap. Very clean, 354 bolt. It's like brand new inside, but for whatever reason, both cylinder heads, the gasket was blown between the center cylinders. So the thing didn't run, had no compression. So I went ahead, pulled it apart, checked the heads. Everything seemed straight. I checked them with a straight edge, couldn't see anything. Put it back together, and as you can see, it runs now, and it runs fine. This is going to go into the 54 Dodge tow truck that I have, that I've talked about a couple times on the channel. The truck already has a small block Chevy in it, but it's full of water. The truck had been sitting for the last 20-some years. Motor that's in its junk. It's kind of cobbled in the truck, so we're probably going to bring it in the shop in the next week or two, and we're going to pull the front clip off. Since the motor's sitting in the truck, we're going to move it around a little bit. We're just going to use the motor that's in there to mock up some motor mounts, and then we're going to pull what motor's in it out, finish welding the mounts up. This 350 Chevy and a Turbo 350 I have are going to end up in this Dodge tow truck. Like I said, it's a 54. So all I wanted to do today was I had to put a Bendix in the starter, because the starter that I had laying around was good, except for the Bendix was bad. So we put a Bendix in it today. Put accelerator pump and bowl gaskets and stuff in it. The carburetor at least holds an idle, which is something it didn't do. But for whatever reason, our accelerator pump is jammed up. So we got a dead spot. We need to fix that. So once it cools off, I'm going to pop this bowl back off. I'm not quite sure. There must be something blocked in the passage that I thought I got out. Maybe I didn't get it out. I don't know. So we'll take the bowl back off. We'll clean it out. See if there's something in it. This carburetor I've had it's a 750 vacuum secondary. It came with some abandoned project, just like half the other junk that's around here. It was a good carburetor. It sat on the shelf, and, well, you know, when stuff sits around, it goes to garbage. But at least it holds an idle, and it fires right back up for the most part. I don't have the electric choke hooked up, so when I hit the throttle, the choke plate closed, but I had to manually open it up. When we get it in the Dodge truck and we rewire the truck, we will hook the choke, all that up down the road. For today's purpose, we just wanted to see if this turd would hit on all 8 cylinders and finally run. We're going to be running these headers, which are, I know, kind of goofy. Plug wires go underneath of them. These headers are actually from again, another abandoned project of mine. They came with a V8 Toyota that I bought. In fact, if memory serves me right, this carburetor came with that truck, these headers, the water pump, and all the brackets hanging off the front of this, I believe all came from this Toyota I bought. Bought a Toyota pickup several years ago. It had a V8 in it, but the truck ended up having a bad frame. So I ended up parting the truck out, and I kept everything from the truck. In fact, the motor ended up in my van, and this motor ended up on the stand for me to fix it. So as of right now, she runs. She sounds pretty good. I think it'll be fine. For what we, all purpose of what we're going to do with this old Dodge tow truck, just cruising around and enjoy it and ride it, this is perfect. Doesn't need to be a hot rod. It doesn't need to burn the tires off. At the end of the day, it's a tow truck. Let me just take you outside and show you the old girl. And you'll kind of get an idea as I trip over a bunch of garbage. And if you don't already know, and you're new to the channel, you know I like these old tow trucks. So this is the truck that's got a small block in it now, but it's, like I said, really cobbled in there. So this will be a cool project to add to the endless collection of junk. But it's just something else that I wanted to play with and fool with, like I need a hole in the head. But my whole idea with this project, like I always talk about on the channel, I tell everybody all the time, cheap, cheap, cheap is how I like to do things with these old cars, these old projects. And I try to use stuff that I have laying around, stuff I bought at swap meets for next to nothing. Keep it reasonable. You don't have to go crazy. You don't need to build a hot rod motor right off the bat. Just put a motor in the thing so you can get it running and driving and get it tagged. Then if you want to build a hot rod motor for whatever you're fooling with, build a hot rod motor. But this was just literally everything on this motor. I think the distributor is the only thing I did buy, and the oil and filter that's in it. The distributor, actually I take that back. Distributor and plug wires are all brand new. I did buy them because I did not, for some odd reason, unless it's still packed away in the back half of the building that we still haven't unpacked a year later. There might be a distributor in there. I just, for $50, I bought a brand new one. I think the plug wires were $40. I think they were on Amazon. So the whole idea is to put this thing together is on the cheap as cheap you can without being, cheap. Be cheap, but not be cheap and unsafe. That's what I'm trying to get at. So right down to the valve covers, I had these laying around. Like I said, I'm going to use all of these brackets. These motor mounts were even left over from the Toyota, so I'm going to make a couple flat plates come off the frame rail, and that's how I'm going to mount the motor. Right now, how the motor that's in the truck is mounted is they took and made a horseshoe mount that bolts to the front of the motor and then bolts to the frame. It's really crude. They literally just, you could still see, they just cut it with a torch out of a piece of flat plate and welded some ears on the end. It's pretty crude. It probably worked. I'm sure it worked. But they've got the motor set back a little too far into the firewall, and it needs to come forward a little bit so that you've got enough room for an HEI. Maybe with a points distributor or maybe with a small Mallory Unilite or something along those lines, you could probably get it shoved back. But I think if it brought it forward just 2 inches, nothing would rub on the firewall. Because right now they've got a piece of the firewall kind of cut out and junk screwed in there. So I want to fix all that. I want to fix that so that it's not so hacked up. But I'm just trying to keep everything on the cheap because there's other things I got to buy for the truck. We're going to need to buy a wiring harness. We got to figure out what we're going to do for wheels and tires. That stuff gets expensive fast. So if I could put together a cheap motor and trans combination, I'm not blowing a lot of money right off the bat for this part of it. Then I got money to spend on the rest of it. The cab of the truck's in pretty good shape other than the firewall, and a little bit of the floor needs to be repaired. Other than that, the cab's in good shape. The door glass, a couple of the door glasses got cracks in them, so we'll have to deal with that. It's all flat glass, so that shouldn't be a problem. We're going to rewire the truck, brakes, that's all easy stuff. I've already bought some of the brake parts. The rear axle, we're going to change out altogether. Right now, it's got whatever rear came with that 54 Dodge. That's what's in it. I've got I believe it's a 10-inch ring gear out of a F350 is what I'm going to use. And then I'm still going to keep it dually, but I'm going to use later model 16-inch wheels, make getting tires cheaper. With using a Ford rear, I'll have big brakes on the back. And again, cheap. All that stuff's really cheap to buy, fix, and keep it going. Dry shaft, we'll just cut something up, make a dry shaft. That's not a problem. And exhaust, not a problem. I've got an exhaust machine over there, and we'll make the exhaust. So that stuff's going to be cheap. The wrecker unit is all going to stay just like it is. We're going to make a set of fenders for the back and a couple little other pieces for the back. But for the most part, we're going to leave the truck pretty much how I showed it to you. For the simple fact, that's what I want. I want it to look like it fell out of 1954 and it's been used for the last 20 years. That's what I want. I'm going to have it lettered, or I've got a couple ideas for lettering on the door. It's going to have my name on it. I've even run across the thought of, some of you guys might remember back in the day. When I say back in the day, I'm going late 70s, probably even mid 70s into the 80s. Yellow, remember the telephone book, your big thick telephone book, yellow, let your fingers do the walking. They used to sell stickers that went on the doors. They were yay big, and it said Yellow Pages and had a little picture of a fingers doing a walking. And you would have your business name and a telephone number. I like that idea. Actually, a guy I know has that on a truck, not close to me. He's 4 or 5 hours away from me, but he actually has that on the door. And I've always thought that was cool. Always thought that would look great on that truck because it's period correct to that air. Might do something like that. I'm not 100% sure yet. We'll get to that when we get down the road. We got a long ways to get to that road. But for right now, at least we got the motor running. It lights right up. It's holding good oil pressure. It sounds good. I mean, it sounds as good as a stock 350 with open headers is going to sound. But at least I got all 8 cylinders, and it sounds, other than that, sounds fine. So now we will just push it back over here into the corner. We are going to take the front of this carburetor apart and see why we are not getting any accelerated. Our accelerator pump is not working. We need to peep that out and see what's going on there. But other than that, at least we fired right up. Fuel pump's bringing fuel up to the carburetor, and it holds an idle. So we're halfway there. The thing's not smoking. What more can we ask for? So our next step, like I said, will be in the next week or two, I want to get this little truck here done. I got a little S10 sitting behind me, and I got a van outside that I need to put a motor in. So once I get these 2 jobs knocked out, I plan to back that truck in here and get the front clip off so we can figure out the motor mount situation. My whole idea for right now, right this second as I'm talking, is to get this motor, the trans, in the truck, even if we just hotwire it so I can yard drive it so it moves on under its own power, would be perfect. And I know some guys want to know, the Rat Rod Wrecker is sitting over there. It's still, we're waiting on a couple of pieces that I ordered so I can finish rebuilding the front end. We got the Crown Vic suspension all apart on it, and we found that it needed a few pieces. And I'm ordering a kit from, that there is our lower control arm, and that's our strut. A company called Outcast makes a bracket to lower the strut through the control arm, which will give us another 1.5 to 2 inches to make the truck a little lower. I ordered them, so whenever they come in, we'll have them, and we start putting this back together. We got to get wheel bearings. We need left and right wheel bearings, and we needed one other part. I can't remember what it was, but everything else is here. Ball joints, upper control arms, and new struts, they're all here. Tie rod ends. I haven't decided if I'm putting a rack in it. This rack is clean. Just kind of back and forth. We spent so much money on it now, do we just go ahead and put a rack in it? But it doesn't appear to be leaking, so I think we're just going to roll with what's in there for now. A couple of lines got messed up. We're going to have to fix them, redo them, whatever. But we have not forgotten about the wrecker over here at all. I'm simply just a little bored today and wanted to fire this motor up. And I did, and it's kind of got me excited to get it stuffed into the truck now that we are together. Like I said, we got a lot of ways to go before we're even thinking about driving this turd. But at least it lights up. I think we're going to do some kind of power steering on that old Dodge. Because when you're sitting in the truck, the steering column is right here. The steering box is way out on the end of the frame rail. And I think I can use a GM. I'm thinking about a GM four-wheel drive box, because a GM four-wheel drive box has a drag link that goes back and forth just like that will. If I make it so I can put a GM box on it, we can put some power steering on it, change the steering column, give us a little bit of elbow room in the truck, and then the girlfriend can drive it because it'll be easier to steer, just be a little more comfortable to drive. We're leaving all the stock suspension under the front. We're not changing the solid axle. I'm not getting into all that. I don't want to dump $1,000 million into that turd. $3-4 grand is like my max in my head. Maybe $5 grand at the most is all I want to dump in that turd. Tires are what's going to be the big eat me up on price. As far as a gas tank, I got an old keg. I'm just going to use a keg for a gas tank. So I've got a lot of stuff worked out in my head that I'm going to use on that truck. Again, all stuff I've accumulated over the years, junk that's been laying around that I'm like, oh, I'll use that on a project. And then I end up buying something new. No, this time I'm using all the junk that I have laying around the shop to put that turd together. Other than safety stuff, brakes, tires, yeah, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff I'll just buy new. I'm not going to fool with it. But as far as everything else goes, I'm using all the junk that I had laying around. This is all junk that I've accumulated over the years. This intake manifold came off of another Toyota pickup that I cut up. If you go back a bunch of videos, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I cut up a V8 Toyota, really, really rusty. It had a small block Chevy in it. We cut all the rears out of it, transfer case out of it, and all. This intake was actually on the locked up 350 Chevy that was in it. In fact, I had to take a torch and cut the distributor out to get the intake off the motor because it had that much water in it. Valve covers were bought for an abandoned project. Pulleys, all this came from another V8 Toyota pickup. And the motor itself came from a box truck. So as of right now, we have $100 in it, $120, oil and filter, distributor, and wires. Everything else is right down to the spark plugs. I had them from something. They were new in a box laying over there on the shelf, and I went, oh, these will work. They went in. So right now, we don't have a whole lot of money in this little 350 Chevy. Turbo 350 I got came from a Chevy Impala I cut up that had a 400 small block in it that I kept the 400 from, and the Turbo 350 was hooked to it. I don't know if it works. We're going to go on a assumption that it works. We don't know. We're going to clean it up. We're going to service it, put a filter in it, stuff it in the truck. If it don't work, then we'll pull it out. We'll go through it. It's a Turbo 350. I can go through that. That's simple. So if we have to go through the trans, I'm okay with that. And then after that, we got to wire the truck and wheels and tires, and we can make this thing run and roll, which will be kind of sweet. So look, I'm going to put some of this junk away, get this little S10 set up on the lift, roll this. I'd like to get this bowl off of this carb air and see what's going on with our accelerator pump. It won't even move. I don't know this. I don't know. I just put a brand new pump in it about an hour ago. So there's something is blocking. So we'll get the air and we'll get it off of there and we'll see what happens. That's all we can do. So look, holler at your boy. Keep it reals. And I'll let you on the next video what I found with the carb air.